Hey guys, welcome back to Uncanny channel. Today we're going to be talking about the suicidal dogs of Overtoun Bridge. Before we get started, I know that we're just talking about dogs, but we're going to be talking about suicide and using terms related to suicide, and there's something that's going to be brought up in the story later that is really troubling to do with like a human being. So if you're in a place where this kind of content might be upsetting or triggering to you, go on and skip this one. I've got a ton of content on my channel that I think you'll enjoy that may not be quite as upsetting to your mental health. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. I heard about this story ages ago and I thought it was so fascinating. I'm excited to share that with you guys. But before we get into like the real good meaty stuff, we need to talk about the history of the bridge and the estate that it sits on, because that's going to relate to the paranormal aspect later. Overtoun Bridge is part of the Overtoun House and Estate, located in West Dunbartonshire? I'm trying here. Scotland, which is about 16 miles or 26 kilometers northwest of Glasgow. The land itself was bought by a man named James White in 1859, and by 1862 he had built the Overtoun House and Estate, which is done in a Scottish baronial style. If you're into architecture, I don't really know what that means, but it looks really nice, and so. White and his wife had both passed away by 1891, and then the estate went to his son John, who decided he wanted to expand the estate and connect the western and eastern sides that were divided by a waterfall in the Overtoun Burn. John built the Overtoun Bridge to connect both sides of the estate, and eventually was elevated to peerage, which would make him Baron Overtoun. Over the years, the estate has been used for many different purposes, from being a maternity hospital, to a youth mission, to even being a filming location for the movie Cloud Atlas.
Would you unlock the door for Mr. Meeks?
It's said that after Baron Overtoun's death in 1908, his wife paced the bridge for the rest of her life until her death in 1931. The local legend says that her spirit still haunts the bridge to this day, and many people have stories of either seeing her spirit on the bridge or feeling a presence as they cross the bridge. Paul Owens, the author of the book The Baron of Rainbow Bridge, okay, I try to say the name of this book a bunch of times and I can't remember the whole freaking title, so I'm just going to read it straight to you. You're just going to see me looking down for a second. The Baron of Rainbow Bridge, Overtoun's death-leaping dog mystery unraveled, described his own encounter with her while he was taking photos of the bridge in an article with Huffington Post. I was up there one summer's day and I felt a very strong jab, like a phantom finger, twice in my back. It was the sensation you get when you fear someone might push you over the edge of a train platform. It's a very strange place. One of the things peculiar to the location is that it can seem very peaceful and tranquil, but it can turn at a moment's notice. You can experience great joy, but at the flick of a switch, you're filled with horror and terror. I've felt it and I've seen it happen. So that's the background of the estate, how it came to be, why there's a bridge there in the first place, kind of gives you an idea about the waterfall, and then it's a kind of a steep drop off beneath the bridge. It's not just like a creek or something. And it also gives us this information about Lady Overtoun and her spirit and how she hangs out on the bridge still. So now we're going to get into the meat of why we're here. The infamous dog deaths began in the 1950s and 60s when dogs started jumping over the parapets of the bridge. A parapet is like a wall that goes on the side of the bridge that prevents you from falling over the edge or in whatever. It's about chest level, I guess. I think how tall you are, maybe somewhere torso level. So like you wouldn't just like happen to fall over it. Dogs that jumped off the bridge suffered a 50-foot, 15 meters fall that usually resulted in their death or in injuries severe enough that they wouldn't make it. It's estimated that since this dog jumping phenomenon started, about 100 dogs to up to 600 dogs have jumped over the side of this bridge. It's to the point that when you approach the bridge, there's a sign that says this is a dangerous bridge and tells you to keep your dog on a leash when you cross it. So we're going on 60, 70 years that this has been happening now, and there's hundreds of dogs involved, and we have no idea why this is happening. There are many theories, paranormal and scientific, as to why these dogs are jumping from the bridge, but there's not one theory that is widely agreed upon as the most likely reason. Something I didn't see mentioned much in my research that I think is really important to discuss related to this case is that dogs, at the heart of everything, are animals. They've been domesticated to live with and work with humans, but underneath all of that, there's still wild animals with a wild animal's heart. It's an animal that knows that it can't survive a high fall and would have some kind of sense of danger about heights and jumping from a high place because they at least have some kind of idea of what their bodies are capable of surviving. So I think that for something to motivate not just a handful of dogs but hundreds of dogs over the years to jump off the side of this bridge against their instincts from a height that is likely to kill them would have to be something very powerful. Something that is more powerful than instinct or the will to survive or the drive for self-preservation. In fact, there's an article from the Herald Scotland that I've linked below. I link all my sources below, where Joyce Stewart, who is an animal behaviorist for the SSPCA, which is the Scottish SPCA, discussed if this is something that dogs might do. She said, dogs are very able to gauge heights and depths they can safely jump. I've never heard of a dog committing suicide. Often, if they know they're going to die, they might go into hiding, but I've never heard of them actually taking their own lives. This is very weird. For multiple dogs to have done the same thing at the same spot is very mysterious. But there must be some rational explanation for it that has just not emerged. The bridge and what has happened there need to be urgently investigated. So what might motivate dogs to do this? To seemingly go against their instincts and to seemingly take their own lives against all instinct? The first theory is a very common one and is very popular with locals and is the reason why we are here, which is that the dogs are being manipulated by some kind of paranormal force, usually Lady Overtoun. Even before any weird things started happening with the bridge or before Overtoun House was even built, the area already had a reputation among locals for being a thin place. A place where the line between the spiritual world and the physical world is very thin. So when all these strange events started happening with Lady Overtoun's ghost and the dogs jumping, it was kind of a natural assumption for people in the area to say that it was due to malevolent spirit, especially because there are already so many accounts of encounters with Lady Overtoun's ghost. There's a lot of speculation that maybe her ghost is luring the dogs over the edge, throwing them over the edge. This theory is bolstered by the events that happened in 1994 when Kevin Moy... This is really fucked up and sad. This is the actual reason that I put the trigger warning on this. Like, I'm not trying to be a snowflake about it. Like, this is about to get really messed up. So this guy, Kevin Moy, and his wife were on an outing with their 2-week-old newborn son when Kevin suddenly threw his baby over the railing of the bridge and then tried to throw himself over the wall of the bridge too. And the only reason he didn't go over is because his wife stopped him. And they took him to Overtoun House while they tried to figure out what was going on and see if they could find the baby, make sure the baby's okay. And while he's at Overtoun House, he tried to cut his wrist with a knife. And obviously he was subdued there as well. They did find the baby, but unfortunately the child's injuries were so severe that the child died the next day in the hospital. Kevin Moy did this because he was convinced that he himself was the Antichrist, and therefore his son was Satan embodied. And he was trying to save humanity from all of the things that would come as a consequence of that. I usually don't give my personal opinion in my videos. I like to try to let you guys kind of think about it for yourself and kind of decide for yourself what you think and talk about it in the comments and create discussion. But I really wanted to clarify my thoughts about this particular part of the story. I don't think what Moy did was related to the supernatural. I'm such an advocate for mental health and mental health awareness, and I just don't feel comfortable presenting this like I feel that this is the consequence of supernatural. I think this is a consequence of untreated mental illness that, from what it sounds like, went on for a long time, that didn't get the attention that it needed, and had really tragic consequences. But even though I personally don't feel comfortable attributing this Kevin Moy incident to the paranormal, A lot of people do. A lot of people see this incident as being similar to what happens with the dogs. Maybe Lady Overtoun or whatever spirit is on the bridge is escalating from animals to humans, much like a serial killer. Or maybe because of the paranormal activity on this bridge, Moy was drawn to it to commit this act. And if you think it's paranormal, no judgment. That's totally fine by me. I just can't, for myself, advocate it as that. So that's the first theory, is that there's a supernatural entity or spirit or other force that is manipulating these dogs into jumping over the bridge to take their own life. The next two theories are really short and sweet and are scientific theories. The second theory is called the scent theory. This is a theory that the dogs are being lured off the bridge by a very strong scent or odor of some kind of creature that they would want to hunt or chase. One of the most common suggestions as part of this theory is mink, which is apparently very strong, pungent smell that dogs find extremely attractive. But from what I've read, it sounds like there's a lot of opposition because mink is apparently not very common in this area, at least certainly not to the extent that hundreds of dogs would jump from this one bridge to chase it. It sounds like it would be a very, very rare occurrence that a dog would come across mink in this area. So the second theory is that dogs are colorblind, which is true, but that because they're colorblind, they can't see well and therefore can't tell where the parameters of the bridge are and end up accidentally walking off the edge. Which to me, this theory is the least likely. A, because we've already established that dogs can judge height and judge height well enough to know that they can't jump over this edge and survive. And second of all, there are parapets on either side of the bridge, so there's no opening where a dog might like just tip over the edge. They would have to jump up onto the parapet and over. So the color blindness theory is a little, I can respect it for trying to be scientific, but it's just not correct, I don't think. So what do you guys think? Is there some extremely appealing scent on the other side of the bridge that is leading these dogs to jump over the side? Is it just that dogs can't see well and they just kind of like over the side of the bridge? Is there a spirit or a other supernatural force that is coercing dogs either off the side of the bridge or manipulating them into wanting to take their own life? This story honestly just gives me such chills. Just the thought of a being that coerces people or animals to take their own life is just so unsettling and terrifying to me. It's just all bad vibes. It's all real bad vibes. There's just no motivation that an entity would have to do that isn't just a completely evil and malevolent one. Life is just such a brightness and a gift that the desire to remove that from someone, there's just no room for light in that kind of darkness. So leave me a comment and let me know what you guys think. Is there a rational explanation for what's happening? Do you think that it's a supernatural force that is causing this to happen? Oh, do you have a theory that's not one of the ones that I listed? Because those are the kind of three major theories, but if you have an idea that is something different than that, I would love, love, love to hear it. Please comment it below. I would be so interested to hear that. Before I go, there's a sources section in every video that I make, and this one has a ton of meat, like little individual like stories of people recounting what happened with their dog and all that kind of stuff that I didn't include because it was gonna be all over the place and disjointed. But if you want to know more details about this, it's all there. Subscribe if you haven't already, and be sure to click the little bell so that you get a notification anytime that I post. I have some interesting stuff planned that you're not going to want to miss. Like this video, thumb me if you think you know me like that. And as always, remember that it is a wonderful thing to believe in the unbelievable. Bye guys.